Welcome back. A new Fox News poll finds that President Biden is right now record high disapproval among key voting groups, specifically suburban voters, women, and voters under the age of 45. That same poll also reveals that President Biden has a majority of negative ratings across the issues, including foreign policy, taxes, the economy, immigration, and inflation. Look at these numbers. A separate Fox News poll finds that 48% of voters choose former President Trump in a 2024 rematch, compared to 46% picking Biden. Joining me right now is Democrat strategist and former Biden campaign surrogate Kevin Walling. Also joining me is Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. He's the author of the book, The Puppeteers, the people who control America. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Kevin, let me start with you and your reaction to all these polls with President Biden's numbers dropping and dropping fast.
Yeah, Maria, those are tough polls, no question. I'm a Democrat on your show, and those are problematic because those three core groups that you just talked about, suburban voters, women, young voters, were key constituencies for the president's successful campaign in 2020, where he defeated Donald Trump. So clearly, the administration, the president, as we continue to go into this campaign, need to do a lot better with these core groups, no question about it.
Well, I mean, look, I think what you're getting at is messaging. But, is it fair to say that, voters are choosing President Trump over President Biden right now because Trump's policies were simply better?
Well, that could certainly be the case. I think, what we need to do, to your point, Maria, it is a messaging issue, right? You take the example of the disconnect between young voters and
I'm saying it's not a messaging issue. It's about policy. Trump's policies were just better. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not. You can talk about messaging all day long. Let's talk about the meat and potatoes. And that is the policy.
Let's talk about the meat and potatoes. Let's take that core group of young voters, Maria, as an example, right? The number one issue for young voters, especially young Democrats, is the issue of climate change and global warming. And this president has done more from a policy perspective, right, to secure America's future in this economy from a green jobs perspective and the climate issue. We just need to demonstrate and deliver that message clearly to young voters to make up for that disconnect. So it's both a messaging issue.
I haven't seen that poll that climate change is the number one issue. Let me get Jason Chaffetz in here. Jason, your thoughts on all of this?
Look, the reality is they're upside down because the policy is upside down. There is no serious energy policy that drives down the cost of energy for the average American. Inflation's out of control. The worst number that President Biden had was on inflation. He has no game plan other than spend more money, which exacerbates the situation internationally. And then the communication is just on top of all this. You have a commander-in-chief and a vice president who have an inability to be able to communicate on these issues. So bad policy, bad communicators. Republicans should count their blessings here and count their luck. If they continue down this path to have Joe Biden represent the Democratic Party in the election in November, there's probably nobody better to run against than Joe Biden because he can't get it done.
But do you agree with Kevin that Kevin says the number one issue for young people is climate change?
No, I don't happen to believe that. I think it's an issue that a lot of people, but as their number one issue, the reality is the overwhelming majority of people that get out and vote, they are a little bit older. They care about these other core issues more than they do climate change. And I think actually, when you go and talk about those types of issues, people like Donald Trump and a Ron DeSantis and those types of people, they're going to be able to hold their own on this issue.
Kevin, I think, the fact that you're starting off thinking that that's the number one issue that's important to young people gives me pause, frankly, because it makes me feel like you don't understand what's important to the American people. I mean, you heard what Jason just said about inflation. Are you not feeling inflation when you go to the grocery store, Kevin? Are you not feeling the threat of
Maria,
China?
Everyone is feeling
policy and inflation. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but the first thing you said was, let's talk about young people. Their most important issue is climate change. I mean, if that's what you really believe, is that what the Democrat Party believes?
Maria, you wanted to talk about policy. Maria, you started off with three key groups associated with Joe Biden's standing. One of them is young people. one of the leading issues for young people is climate change. And I talked about some of the policies in the Inflation Reduction Act to tackle the issue of climate change. So we're trying to have a substantial conversation around policy. We can talk about the energy tax credits that are part of the IRA that Jason talked about in terms of bringing down the cost of energy in this country. We can talk about prescription drugs, which is a leading issue in terms of health care for women, and talking about that segment of the population that is down on Joe Biden. And we need to get a better read out there for the American people, especially with these groups, on some of the things that this president has accomplished.
I feel like you're mincing words. Okay, let's take the elephant out of the room right here, okay? Inflation has spiked to 40-year highs. Crime is spiking across the country.
It's down two-thirds from its high. It's down two-thirds from its high from last summer. Maria, let's be honest with the American people. It's still stubbornly high. It's still absolutely too high. And we're working to bring it down, but it's down two-thirds from the original high, Maria.
No one believes what you're saying. You're mincing words, Kevin, okay?
Maria, look at the statistics.
From its high.
Do you agree that it's down two-thirds from its high, Maria?
Kevin, I don't want to see it at its highs. Down two-thirds from its high still means it's up, okay?
It's absolutely up, and we're working to bring it down.
From when President Trump is in office, okay? So stop mincing words and deal with the issues that are important to the American people. Inflation,
I'm not mincing words. We're trying to have a substantial conversation, Maria, on your show.
Kevin Walling and Jason Chaffetz, we need part 2 of this, and we'll have
Absolutely.
it. We'll be right
Let's
back.
do it, Maria.